Waqinisela uYesu umntwana uyeza. Waqinisela uYesu umntwana usakancane. Waqinisela uyeza uyeza. Waqinisela uYesu umntwana usakancane. Waqinisela uyeza uyeza. Waqinisela umntwana usakancane. Waqinisela uyeza uyeza. Waqinisela umntwana usakancane. Waqinisela uyeza uyeza. Waqinisela umntwana usakancane. Uyeza uyeza. Uyeza umntwana usakancane.
Dumelang, Absheni, Sanbonani, and welcome to Izigxoxo Ronda. Namhlanje we're going to be talking about African oral traditions, and we're going to focus more especially on African oral storytelling.
Guys, what is African oral storytelling?
Okay, let's define it.
Okay.
So actually, African oral storytelling is a communal performative tradition where storytellers use spoken words, music, and gestures to share history, myths, moral lessons, and cultural values across generations.
Okay.
So basically, it's an African way of telling stories which was passed down by from generation to generation by the use of word of mouth. It was an interaction where you have like elder people, gather like children around the fire and tell them stories.
In a setting just like this one.
Exactly.
Okay.
Does anyone have an example of an oral African story?
No,
I don't. Yes, now that you speak about that, I actually am reminded of this story that my grandmother used to tell me a lot. Do you guys want to hear it?
Yes, for sure.
I will settle down. Sukela.
Kwakukhona impisi eyayinonya kwakuthiwa uChakijana. Wonke umuntu wayesaba lempisi kulesi sigodi. Kulabantu laba basesigodini kwakukhona ugogo owayehlala nabazukulwana bakhe ababili. Lo gogo wayaziwa ngokuthi unesihe futhi unomusa kakhulu, uyabathanda abantu futhi uyashesha nokwamukela. Kwathi ngelinye ilanga uChakijana wazizwe lambile. Wacabanga ukuthi noma angahamba athi uyocela ukudla kulabantu asoze bamvulela. Ahamba uChakijana aye kulomzi kagogo. Qonqonqo kusho uChakijana. Awu, yebo mntanami, ngingakwesiza ngani? Oh, sawubona gogo. Igama lami uChakijana. Uyazi ngingumama nje ozifikelayo la endaweni. Futhi njengoba ngifika ngizizwa nginomzangedwa. Akekho umuntu ongamukelayo. Bengicela ukuba umngane. Hawu, ngani yami. Ufike endaweni ekuyiyona. Abonga gogo. Uyazi gogo, nginecebo elihle elizokwenza ukuthi sikwazi ukuthi sazane kangcono. Awu, khuluma mntanami ngilalele. Gogo, ngicabanga ukuthi kumele sidlale umdlalo ekuthiwa umaphekaphekana. Lo mdlalo kade siwudlala la lesigodi engivela kuso. Umnandi kakhulu futhi wenza ukuthi ubuhlobo babantu buqine. Awu, umaphekaphekana. Uzwakala unobugozi lo mdlalo, awungichazele mntanami. Gogo, lo mdlalo lo ulula kakhulu. Sizofike sibase ibhodo lapha eziko. Sifaka amanzi. Ngizobe sengiyangena ke mina. Bese uyangivalela. Bese ke wenze ngathi uyangipheka. Mase ngivuthiwe ngizothi coco sengivuthiwe. Bese uyangikhipha ke. Bese nawe uyangena. Bese nami ngiyapheka. Mase uvuthiwe uzomemeza uthi coco sengivuthiwe. Hayi, kulungile ka senze mntanami. Futhi ngathi ikhona ibhodo elikhulu la endlini. Hawu, uzweke gogo, azishone khona. Baqala bafaka basibhodo, bathatha inkuni, bathatha namalahle, bafaka emlilweni. Bawotha umlilo waze wavutha kakhulu. Base bebeka ibhodo, base bethela amanzi. Wayesesho kuChakijana, kulungile ke gogo, kuzoqala kungene mina. Wayesengena kanjalo kuChakijana, ugogo wamvalela ebhodweni, walinda imizuzwana embalwa. wayesememezile uChakijana. Cococo sengivuthiwe. Hayi, nangempela mkhipha ugogo. Ihambe lento le kuze kungene ugogo. Ugogo angene, uChakijana amfaka amanzi amvalele. Kudlula imizuzwana, amemesa ugogo. Cococo sengivuthiwe. Bese shila uChakijana. Hayi gogo, uvuthwa kanjani ngingakakuboni? Aphele ugogo ebhodweni kube ukushona kwakhe. Ajabula uChakijana ngoba phela usenokudla zokudla. Aphinde futhi acabanga uChakijana ukuthi mayimabo ugogo lo unezingane, unabazukulwane abangabuya nomenini. Hayi nangempela basho sebebuya bezukulwa babone beqhamuka le entabeni. Wacabanga ukuthi into azoyithini le. Uzothatha ke manje izimpahla lezi bezigqoka ugogo azigqoke. Futhi uzawufaka ilahle, uzogwenya ilahle ukuze izwi lakhe lifane ncamashi nelagogo. Hayi zibe sezifikile izingane. Gogo. Silambile. Abaphakele, kanti ubaphakela yona le nyama yagogo. Abaphakele bese bayadla. Ishingane yokuqala. Hayibo. Kwangathi uzipho la gogo nje lolu. Yabo. Hayi, uzipho lenkukhu lolo. Zinedane zihlangane nekhanda izingane zisho zonke. Hayibo. Ngoba ikhanda lagogo nje leli. Hayi uChakijana vela abona ukuthi inkukhu iyawusola umqhakazo. Avela aphumela obala, akhumula izimpahla kuvela isiqu sakhe, ububoyo obukhulu, izandla ezinkulu, ikhanda elikhulu, amazinya amakhulu, zasho zabaleka izingane. Wayeseculile uChakijana ehleka. Badla ugogo wabo. Badla ugogo wabo.
Tos yaphela.
Wow, that was a great one. That's amazing. You know, that was a lovely story. Speaking back to the elements and the techniques of African oral traditional storytelling, I want to understand that. What does it mean? Because you are very intentional about your facial expressions, the way that you told the story, and your gestures as well, right? They were heightened, right? There's a difference between exaggerated and heightened. Yours were heightened. And I've also noticed that within your story, there was no proverbs. You didn't use any proverbs. And please understand this, the originality of African traditional storytelling is that there are proverbs included. Absolutely. There are metaphors included, right? Is there a reason for that you did not include any proverbs in your story?
I mean, definitely. Because Umabuntle had already said, Uguti, the stories are passed down from generation to generation using word of mouth. Therefore, there's nothing scripted about the stories. We can't take the stories word for word. Sorry. So, also because there's a year gap, like this years gap between when the story was told and all of that. So there's a change of language and the use of language. So I'm pretty sure that when my grandmother heard the story from her mother, the story still had a bit of proverbs, you know. And when she told me, because then time had changed, context has changed, also bear in mind of what she was trying to tell me with the story. So there's a difference in language, and not that it's watered down, but it's replaced with certain things, with facial expressions, with the feel of the thing, with heightened speech, not necessarily the use of proverbs. So it's not necessarily about what you say, but how you say it.
Thank you.
Also, because I don't think I would remember. I told the story my way because, but I still kept the feeling because I remember the feeling of
and
how
can I
it
just say,
felt.
on just to leap off what you're saying, I think what you are speaking about essentially is also one thing I've picked up, that the intention throughout time changes because time has changed. Do you understand? I feel like at that time when your grandmother was retelling it to our mothers or our fathers, it had a different intention and it was a different place in society than now. I've heard of this story before. I didn't know that it was it, because it was just told in a different manner for me.
So are there any elements that you picked up?
Absolutely. I feel like I picked up a lot of musicality within it. Not even musicality like she sang. There were songs sang, but it was the way her voice and her cadence was going on. It was very musical. It was very engaging, and it made you want to be focused and glued onto what she's saying and the story. So I think that is a really beautiful element that she brought throughout.
Yeah. I can also say it kind of falls like under folktale, if I'm not mistaken.
It is a folktale.
Because also to bear in mind, the stories were told to like children, so everything was like exaggerated.
Absolutely.
And the language that was used it was the language that could be understood by children. You know. Also
hence the musicality.
Definitely. Also the metaphors. There's also the saying that a wolf in a sheep's
clothing.
You see, so they use like animals in this story, and you can't tell me Uguti, like animals speak.
Absolutely.
Exactly. You can't tell me that an adult can be fooled by an animal pretending to be a human being. But because the stories were told to children, there was a certain way they were told. You get me? Yeah. But
I think also that, like what you pointed out, is that the animals, I think the use of animals within African oral storytelling is so prevalent, because
it is.
There's, you've seen the chagalas, the jacklets as sly and all of these things, and so many different animals are associated with different things. Why do you think there's a reason for African oral storytellers to use animals instead of human beings?
Can I add on that? I think for this specific story, why they used a wolf, I think because of the characteristics, and also to link what story they were trying to tell. I mean, a wolf is like being like, expressed to be having like, what's this, lies, deceiving.
So the personality
characteristics of the wolf, you get me? It was also used to tell this particular story in order to actually, again, to like warn the children to not be also trusting. And I mean, I think from here we can also speak about what do we think was the moral of the story. Why was it told, and why was it told specifically to children?
So regarding the moral of the story, I feel like the morals, it's not fixed, like it changes through time and the context in which the story is told. Because for instance, for me, the moral of the story is to not be like the wolf, to not be cunning, to not be selfish, also to learn how to coexist with people without always thinking about you or putting you first and all of that. I think you wanted to say something about...
Yes, I think what I've taken out of this, which is I found very interesting, is that what you took out of the story and what I took out of the story, and it being told to us by two different people, is so interesting. Because when it was told to me, I took it as a cautionary tale more than anything. Having lived as a young child in Johannesburg, there was a very thing, it's a dangerous place. Even in my neighborhood, there was a lot of things happening. So it was told as, do not just trust anybody, because anybody cannot be a good person, you understand? Sure. And it makes me think about a story that I've heard that is almost similar to it.
Is it?
Yes, it's a European story. I think maybe some of you have heard it.
Is it?
Yes, it's called The Little Red Riding Hood.
Oh,
I think you've heard of it.
Yes.
So one thing about The Little Red Riding Hood, and when I compare it to this story, I see that The Little Red Riding Hood, the way it's told is completely different to this one. You understand? Even this one, even though its intention, I think it's similar to my grandmother. It also is told as a cautionary tale, but the way it's told is completely different to how it was told to me. I feel like our stories as Africans are innately more interactive. My grandmother, the story, she was engaging with me. There was call and response. There was singing in between. I felt like I was part of telling the story. I was a part of the story. But when I was reading Red Riding Hood, or when they they read it to me in primary school, we were sitting on a mat.
Also, it's written down.
You understand? It's written down. So that's just the difference between an archived, story, like written down. It can't change, rather than an oral one, which can be changed and adapted depending on the times. And I think that just speaks about transposition and adaptation. And I can see that in this story and in this instance.
I mean, also, sorry, can I say something?
Yes.
I think the transposition and the adaptation aspect of it can also speak back into the morals. Because
Absolutely.
with this one, it's interchangeable. You can mold it differently. It's also very multifaceted in terms of what you're trying to say with the story. So because you took it as a cautionary tale when we were told, I took it as a build of my character, shaping my character. I should aspire to not be the wolf. I should aspire to be like that grandmother who was very welcoming and helpful. Also with the kids, be very cautious. Always protect your loved ones, because if they were there, if they didn't come back from the playgrounds late, they would have seen and all of that. So African storytelling or this type of folklore, they're very interchangeable. You are able to adapt them into what you're trying to say in that time. And with Little Red Riding Hood, because it's written down, I feel like the moral will always be the same. Because
Absolutely.
also even with books, at the end of the book, they will write the moral of the story is this, and then they say in the end, So yeah.
Speaking back to Little Red Riding Hood, you mentioned something about the audience. So I'd like to at least articulate it in a sense that you are saying that with the European aspect, the audience is isolated.
Absolutely.
Right? And with African oral traditional story, the audience isn't isolated, right? But you spoke about how the book has both pictures and the presentation of European storytelling is that it's spoon-fed, I'd like to say.
Absolutely.
And excuse me for my bold statement, but it is. When you get the book has pictures and it has literally the text, right? And psychologically speaking, let's speak back to what it does to your brain. You know, I'd like to believe that it doesn't stimulate any sense of visualization. Because with African oral traditional story, you have to think about what is being said to you. You don't have any text, you don't have any pictures, right? So I'd like to say that psychologically speaking, we can say that it stimulated a lot of creativity in kids, right? And it's very interesting. Manje again, speaking back to musicality,
yes.
I'd like to know, are there any songs that you know that we can sing and just vibe on?
I mean, I think we can sing the song that was in the story because it stimulates our brain.
How stimulating.
It's one of the rituals that were done.
Yeah.
You know?
So the song, I don't know if you still remember from if you were listening.
How does it go?
Just one more time.
Badu koko wabo.
Badu koko wabo. Badu koko wabo.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
From Izigxoxo,
Ronda.
Catch us on the next one.
Until next
you.
time.